Flers,
Present.
Bobby Hopewell,
Present.
Brenda Hughes, Sakia Lee,
Present.
Shalana Lewis, Carol McGlynn,
Here.
Alyssa Stewart.
All right, you folks should have the minutes from our last meeting. Hopefully you reviewed them. If you make a motion, please say your name and whether you're making the motion or support.
Motion to approve the minutes, Carol McGlynn.
Motion to support the minutes, Sakia Lee.
Moved by McGlynn, supported by Lee. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. You have the agenda before you. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we will take those by consensus as being approved for this meeting. And we're on number 5, reports of officers, boards, and committees. 5A, funding subcommittee, Mr. Ford. Oh, I think he's locked up. Who's the chair of the funding subcommittee? You guys not select a chair? No? Okay. We'll go to nominating and come back to funding. 5B, nominating committee. Who's the chair of nominating? Well, I guess. All right. Well, let's wait a minute for Mr. Ford to see if he can get back on, and we'll see what reports we have. Take a breather, grab a water. Vice Mayor, why don't you talk about the item you wanted to talk about now, since we have everybody in regards to the information you sent out?
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I had a chance to have a great conversation with Director Bonner and Leatrice Fullerton and the Vice Chair of the Civil Rights Board, and just ways that the city as a whole can be more accessible. And so one of the ways, some of the information that was provided was more in these virtual settings. And so a lot of the ways we do kind of incorporate them, but there's more that we can do. So Kevin shared with you all before the meeting, and if you haven't had a chance to look at it, please make sure you do. Just simple things such as, before we speak, saying your name, so that people, who are not able to see can actually follow along with the meeting in real time. And so, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there if there's any discussion around that, but hopefully we can, adopt these things and as a city just become more accessible in real time for everyone.
Good. Thank you.
So yeah, we'll we'll work with Kevin to make sure as we're going through this that we have some guidance as if things aren't happening the way they should. Director Bonner, I'd hope you from an equity perspective will also keep our feet to the fire on this as well, as because we won't all have them and we'll need some assistance from folks to do those things. A couple of things I will say now, Brenda, if you could adjust your screen so that we can see your whole face, if you can do that, that would be great, or sit back, one or the other. Perfect. And that will help folks know, not just see your eyes. Perfect. One of the things I think that was in there, if I'm not mistaken, Vice Mayor, is that everyone being on cam. So that's an interesting thing right now. I know some of you are not, and you probably have reasons for that. Or we'll go with that for
Sakaya.
And so anyway, just want to remind you to have your camera on. I think that was one of them, wasn't it, Vice Mayor? Okay. And then being centered into the picture and having if you have a head like mine, it'll take up the whole screen. So you have to adjust yourself regarding your head size and everything. But those are the sort of tips that we'll try to keep in mind and remind everybody of as we try to be more equitable and inclusive in our meetings. So And smiling is always a good thing too. That makes people feel good. So love your smiles. So
I will say
Um,
I am on the tail end of a migraine, which is why I have my camera off, not to cut you off, Bobby. So I'm trying to keep it on as long as I possibly can. The other thing I wonder, can we get closed caption? I've been in a lot of Zoom meetings where closed caption was at the bottom. I know we don't have the chat feature here, probably because of the type of meeting that it is, but I always thought the closed caption was cool when I was in other settings. So just something to think about.
Mr. Hinckley, you know much about closed caption?
Hinckley is our guest. I
Oh,
think
who's
the
our,
city-
who's
The
our,
city of Kalamazoo. I don't know who's on, but it may be somebody from IT.
That is something that we can try to look into and see if that's something we can make happen. Maybe not today, but at least for the
Right.
next meeting.
yeah. We know we have some adjustments we'll have to make, so everyone's gonna have to be patient with this meeting as we're making these changes. But for all those that are listening in, we're trying to be cognizant and we'll continue to do that and find ways to be more inclusive as we can and more equitable as we can as we hold these meetings. So with that, we're going back to the agenda number 5, which is reports of officers, boards, and committees. And it's 5A, funding subcommittee, and Kevin Ford will speak on that. And I'm Bobby Hopewell, who was talking. So, Mr. Ford.
All right. So I don't know if anybody noticed, but my computer is shut down. So I'm just getting back on.
We noticed. That's why
Okay.
we went ahead and talked about the vice mayor's information she sent today. So we had that conversation, as you can tell. So we won't
Okay.
have to have that later.
All right. Thanks. Thank you all for keeping it moving. And I don't know if we can edit that out. I know this is public, but IT work with me on that. So I'll report out on nominating committee and subcommittee. So with the nominating committee, we're overall on track with the timeline we established. There was a slight wrinkle in the sense that we didn't complete our objective of publishing the application online last week. I'm working with the city clerk's office to get that up. The city clerk's office controls what goes on the city websites, boards, and commissions webpage. And that's not to throw them under the bus or anything, but we had just set an aggressive timeline to have it up last week, and that didn't happen. So it has to be up this week. It will be up this week. We would prefer for it to be on the city page. We could go another route, but we want to stay in uniform standard with all the other city boards and commissions that we have and have it on the city page. So I'll make extra effort to work with city clerk's office this week to get that application online. Other than that, we should still be on track to have some folks alerted to that opportunity and have some candidates before the organizer committee next month.
Five B.
So subcommittee, we are on track with this timeline as well. We did meet our objective to have the opportunity published last week online. I shared that with everybody on this call. Please share out as much as possible, preferably via organizational websites as opposed to personal networks. But yeah, I shared the media release with everybody to some other channels as well. And I'm constantly just sharing it with folks throughout the week, just as we could get the word out to as many folks as possible. Question, Brenda Hughes.
Brenda Hughes.
Wasn't a question. I just wanted to comment that I got the One Place newsletter yesterday.
Brenda, would you say your name?
Brenda Hughes. You said Brenda Hughes. I'll say Brenda Hughes. Okay. I got the One Place newsletter yesterday, and it is posted on the One Place newsletter already. So that's great.
So we're scheduled to meet tomorrow, that subcommittee, to talk about next upcoming phases of that project. And we'll report out again. I hope everybody's been looking at like the project status reports related to these efforts. And I should have another one out this Friday as well.
Kevin, I have a quick question. Alyssa Stewart. I have a question about, we had discussed at a previous meeting the idea of providing some technical support or some kind of Q&A sessions for people who may not have navigated similar grants in the past. I just wanted to check in on that component. I know for this LOI piece, there's a pretty quick due date of February 12th. And so I just wanted to see if there was any plans to convene any sort of open Q&A between now and the LOI deadline.
So we hadn't discussed that. The last meeting we had virtually. I know that was lifted up before, like having something in January, and it was a pretty tight timeline. It was agreed at the last meeting, kind of push that back. Again, we got a meeting scheduled tomorrow. We can have that on the agenda. And if there's any appetite for that, we could plan it out.
Carol?
Carol McGlynn. And Kevin, I did see though, like with the LOI, you do have a place where if it's like a newer applicant to click, so you do have a road for people that may not be connected specifically with grant making and stuff, or that this is kind of first time new stuff.
Yeah, so if it's the software link, you set up an account. If you are an existing organization, it's a link for that. If you're a new organization, it's a link for that. When you go into that, it's also a short piece on how to write an LOI as a supportive piece. And so that's in there as well. But I realize, it may also be helpful to just have some live Q&A and some human interaction. So we could discuss if we want to do that and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, that it makes sense to have something live too.
This is Bobby Hopewell. Any other questions for Mr. Ford? Thank you, Mr. Ford. We are now on item 6, new business. 6A is 2Gen Learning Center presentation by Mike Hinckley. Mr. Ford, are you going to introduce or?
Yes, I am. Okay. And if IT can provide permission to share screen, I think that'll be helpful. So next up is a presentation by Mike Hinckley. He is the Executive Director of Literacy and Beyond 2Gen Learning Center. I believe that's out of Port Huron, Michigan. And so Mike's organization focuses on educational outcomes of at-risk children and their families, in addition to addressing non-academic barriers that hinder their success. So Mike is familiar with and has incorporated some elements from the Aspen Institute's work within the 2Gen field. I was introduced to Mike last year when he gave a presentation at Southwest Michigan First about his organization. And I thought it would be beneficial as SBK moves deeper into this 2Gen space to hear from an operational 2Gen program for the following purposes. First, to serve as a resource for us to highlight any challenges, pitfalls, and opportunities for growth within this space. And second, for us to serve as a resource to Mike as he's planning to expand in the Kalamazoo area with this 2Gen Learning Center. And so without anything further, I'll hand it over to Mike for his presentation. We'll have a brief Q&A after.
So this is Bobby Hopewell. Before you do that, I'm going to have all the members introduce themselves and their organization, Mr. Hinckley, so you know who we are as you're having this conversation.
Thank you.
I'll start with Kim Hollers.
Hello, my name is Kim Hollers. I'm with Goodwill Industries of Southwest Michigan, and I am the Adult Education and Training Manager there. And on the Goal Team, I'm also the Goal Team Chair for Strong Families.
Thank you. Elisa Stewart.
Hi there, Alyssa Stewart. I am with United Way of Battle Creek and Kalamazoo region.
And both Ms. Hollers and Ms. Stewart are on the SBK steering committee. Mr. Mitchell.
Good afternoon. My name is Antonio Mitchell. I'm the Community Investment Manager for the City of Kalamazoo. I'm a city employee, just like that.
Thank you. The Honorable Don Cooney.
Hi, Mike. My name is Don Cooney. I teach in the School of Social Work at Western Michigan University.
Ben Damerow.
Hey, good afternoon. Ben Damerow, Director for Michigan Works Southwest. I believe some staff were at your presentation last year, so looking forward to hear more from you.
Carol McGlynn.
Hi, I'm Carol McGlynn. I am with SLD Reed and also represent Kalamazoo Public Schools.
The Honorable Vice Mayor Patrice Griffin.
Good afternoon. I'm Patrice Griffin, currently serving as the Vice Mayor of the city and representing the north side of Kalamazoo.
Director Dorla Bonner.
Good afternoon. My name is Dorla Bonner. I'm Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the City of Kalamazoo.
Brenda Hughes.
Brenda Hughes, and I'm representing the east side of Kalamazoo. East side neighborhood.
Shalana Lewis.
Hi, yes, I'm Shalana Lewis. I am the director of the Truth, Racial, and Transformation. So I'm representing that, and I'm also housed at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. And I live in the Vine neighborhood.
Sakia Lee.
Hello, I'm Sakia Lee. I am the Director of Community Collaboration for the Kalamazoo Promise. I also oversee our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and I am the Goal Team Chair for the Children and Youth Subcommittee of Shared Prosperity Kalamazoo.
Jamie Marsman.
Hello, I'm Jamie Marsman. I am the Community Investment Secretary for the City of Kalamazoo.
And I'm Bobby Hopewell. I'm the chair of SBK and business guy in the community and former mayor of the city. And Mr. Hinckley, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. I'm assuming you can all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. I see a couple familiar faces who did have to suffer through this again, but we've come a long way since then with some really cool things that I think you'll be interested to hear about the additions that we've got and added to our program here in Port Huron. We've been up and running for about 4 years. The organization is a 501c3. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to share on my screen here in a moment, but I just wanted to share before I get to that our work largely was informed by the Ascend Institute at the Aspen Institute model of the 2-gen work. You're going to see in my PowerPoint presentation pieces that are part of the components. I've kind of taken some of those pieces out and put them in the slides so you can see where those components are being addressed in the work that we're doing here in Port Huron. And then what I hope to do is give you a PowerPoint presentation. Of course, I think Kevin told me I have about 20, 25 minutes of presentation, then we can have some Q&A. Is that correct, Kevin? Oh, so I'm trying to design it around that. So my hope is that you can kind of maybe make some notes about any questions you have so we don't get stuck on one thing. I want you to get a good overview of what we're doing, and then we can kind of open that conversation up at the end, if that's all right with you guys, okay?
Right.
So let me see. By the way, Mr. Hopewell, I do not know how to get a closed caption on the screen, but you got me a little nervous there for a second when you asked that question.
We don't have it at the moment, so you're good to present as is.
Does everybody see the screen all right?
No, we don't. No.
I'm sorry?
Oh.
We don't see a screen, Mike. We just see your square.
Can IT enable Mr. Hinckley to share the screen?
You should be able to share his screen now.
You want to try it again, Mike?
I will.
All right, there we go.
You got it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So I'll start with the 2-gen Learning Center is here in Port Huron. We started, as you can see, I am an educator, I have a bachelor's degree in education. I'll try to get in the center of the screen so you can see me. I have a bachelor's education, I have a master's degree in special education, and I'm the founder and the executive director of this organization, which is a 501c3 that we started in 2009. This first slide and slides throughout, you're going to see some of our students, our graduates here, and their kiddos, because we are a two-generation approach, and we'll share what that looks like for us in just a minute. But on the left side, you see here is one of our graduates, Hannah, and her daughter Scarlett, that attended our program all of last year, and they just were able to graduate in a COVID graduation in December. But some pretty neat women and children that we serve here. So let me get this out of the way. Our Two-Gen Learning Center uses a holistic two-generation approach, serving women and their children together, that moves families towards economic security by improving educational attainment, GED and associate degree for mothers, and early learning skills for their children, in addition to addressing the non-academic barriers that hinder their success. We are a parent focused with child elements. That's what we have adopted and what we designed our program around. If you are familiar with this graphic from Ascend, you start from the right if you're parent focused, and then what we do is we have child elements, childcare, workforce programs, some of those pieces, and that's the work that we do here that primarily focuses on the parent, but also includes services for opportunities for children. So why? Just so you know, we are a mothers and a women only program. There's a reason for that. A mother's educational level is the greatest determinant of her child's future academic success, outweighing so many other factors, including neighborhood and family income. 80% of single parents, additionally, are women, of which 30% of them and their kids live in poverty. So this program really is focused in the long term on reducing generational poverty. That's our goal. In this picture, you've got trying to move the screen around a little bit. On the left, you've got some students. These are all graduates of ours in all different types. This is a student who dropped out of school to have a child. She graduated. Over here is a mother who also has children, but her kids are in grade school and middle school. Down in the bottom is a mother that is a graduate of our program who we'll share a little more about her later, but also has two other kids, but these two students attended here. And then this bottom left corner is a woman named Tangela, who's in her 40s, who has adult children. So we serve single women, but not all of them have their children here. We'll share what we do as far as childcare in a moment. It's easy for us to find out what the needs are in our communities by taking a look at the kids, kids count data that we can get from their report. We have 97 children born in our community. Hold on, I'm trying to get around here. Sorry about that. We have 97 children born in our community every year to mothers who don't have a high school diploma or GED. In the county, it's about 175. This number, so clearly there's a need in our community. When we discovered this need, we really decided that we wanted to take and do something about it. And that's why we're serving women so that we can help address those issues with their children as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit about our building as I share our story of our programming. We repurposed, we bought this building in 2016, repurposed it as a Hispanic mission building that we bought it from the Catholic Archdiocese of Detroit. It had been, they were looking to offload some of their properties, and we were looking to do something like this in the community. And this building used to also house some Head Start programs and some other programs. So it was ideal for us to kind of repurpose it and remodel it for our purposes. It is located in Port Huron's South Park neighborhood. So that would be sort of, in Kalamazoo speak, one of the core neighborhoods here in our community. It's right in the neighborhood. And one of the key pieces is there's public transportation. There's a bus stop right out in front of our building, which makes it real easy for a lot of our students to get here because we're able to provide bus tickets to them so that they can attend the program. This building's 13,000 square feet. It's ideal for us. What we found is we started to actually outgrow it after the first year. So we had some people that were renting some spaces, but we kind of had to tell them they couldn't be here because we got real popular and we needed the space. But we're real proud of the building and the work that we're doing in it. So let's talk a little bit about the adult education side of the program. If you notice up on the top right up here, I've kind of taken some of those components and clipped them and put them in here for your understanding of what the Aspen Institute components are for each one of these pieces. So we have 3 GED learning spaces. That's a picture of one on the side here. Each one of those spaces is available or can seat 9 students. This year it's different because we are doing social distancing of 6 feet. So we're able to have 6 students in each classroom. We also have a college grads program for our graduates that has a seating for up to 6 students. And we'll show you, talk a little bit more about the grads college scholarship that we provide to our graduates in a moment. One of the biggest pieces we do is we have an experienced Michigan certified teacher in each of our GED classrooms. And we've been blessed and fortunate to hire some retired teachers who are on, still have something left in their tank and they're receiving a pension from the state of Michigan. They then work for us 22 hours a week. That's when our program is open so that they can work with students. They don't have to take any homework home, grade papers. They're just here because we still believe, even in adult education, it is critically important to have somebody qualified teacher, a great teacher in front of the students, no matter if they're kids or they're adults. And we use a ton of technology. That's a lot of learning that happens for adults and kids using technology. Ongoing assessment is a big piece here. As you guys probably all know, with anything that's a Aspen Institute model, 2-gen model, if you're doing 2-gen work, you need to be assessing both components. So if you're doing work like we're doing education with GED, we are assessing that with enrollment assessments from the beginning and assessments throughout the whole process. And we'll talk about the childcare assessments in a moment. Again, the program has a 9-to-1 maximum student to teacher ratio. And we have tailored curriculum for every student based on their assessment, both in online and print. And then last year, we opened up our own private GED testing center. That's a photo of it on the right. When COVID shut down our only testing center in our whole county, back in March, we had several students that were ready to take tests and graduate. So we went through the process of having our own testing center set up here. We have 3 sites or 3 spots that they can test. One of the cool things about this is we can continue to provide childcare for their kids. They can take an assessment in the morning to see if they're ready to take the test, and we can schedule them in our own place, our own testing center. That's something new that we hadn't had the last time I spoke over in Kalamazoo. Each student is required to attend the program 10 hours a week. They have 2 different days. They can come Tuesdays and Thursdays or Wednesdays and Fridays. It's a 9:30 till noon, then a lunch period, and then a 12:30 till 3 o'clock period. And there are incentives that are included. We believe in incentives, and as it turns out, the students kind of like those too. So one of the big incentives that we have is something that we developed called attendance counts, so that we can, for a couple reasons. We saw in the first year we were here, we had some issues, as most people in adult education know. Showing up is not always the first goal of the students. Attendance is an issue sometimes. So what we tried and we piloted paying students to be here. And that has worked really well for us. What you see here, and I mentioned here, the program is completely free for all of our students, but this attendance count piece, if they're here 91 to 100% of their time, their 10 hours, they get $50 a month in cash. 75 to 90, they earn $30. If they're below 75, we do have a period of time where they go on probation. This year, we're waiving that a little bit because of the COVID issues and the different changes at schools. But down on the bottom is really kind of one of the key pieces of why we do this. We try to get them to understand their growth is about 1 grade level of growth for every 110 hours of instruction here. when we look at their growth data. So therefore, if they're 100% attendance, they can make 3 grade levels of growth in a year. And if they're at 75%, they can be at 2 grade levels of growth for the year. Often that can get a student over the finish line by the end of the program year to earn their GED. Let's talk a little bit about our Adult Education Program Associate degree that's modeled after, I call it CUNY ASAP Lite. The CUNY ASAP model is from New York City, where they've significantly improved graduation rates for community college students in New York City. The program that we offer, any of our graduates, you must be a graduate. It's a competitive scholarship. You must be a graduate of our GED program. You apply for it. We teach them how to apply for scholarships, and then we choose up to 10 students every year. And this is our first year doing this. We're providing independent study space that I mentioned earlier on site, so that they can still continue to take advantage of our childcare program while they're doing their studies. So we're also building that cohort, and it's continuing to build that relationship and those social networks with their other peers. They also receive a $100 monthly stipend for transportation and/or childcare, and then a $500 book stipend each year, or a laptop, which we bought for all of them this year because they were all had to go online to do their first year in school. And then we have a Life Needs Financial Support program where they can submit any requests they have for particular car repairs and that kind of thing, so that they can make sure that they're continuing to be in school, make it to college. This partnership is with St. Clair County Community College. It's really solid. The biggest part, as I know the students like the financial incentives for sure, but one of the things they are required to do is to meet with our dedicated advisor at SC4. We were able to put together a partnership agreement with the community college where one of their on-campus advisors is dedicated to our graduates 15 hours a week. 10 of those hours are on the SC4 campus, where they help plug them into different resources, the TRIO program, tutoring, and anything else, because every one of our students is a first generation college attender. So they don't know all of those pieces. The other part is she spends 5 hours a week on our GED campus, our 2Gen campus, so that students that are interested in going to college eventually are able to do interest inventories with her, career exploration with her, and then she works, of course, with the FAFSA and all of those pieces as students get close and they get close to graduation, so they can understand those pieces of their education. We also require students to attend monthly cohort or / coaching meetings with the dedicated advisor. Currently, they're doing those virtually. But the first few we did on site at the campus to get them engaged in the campus experience and the college experience. Also to build that social capital with their peers and the other folks there. They're also required to attend monthly meetings with our advisor. And those are so that they can keep track of any challenges they're individually having. And the students really are benefiting from having that. That's a huge piece for us to have that advisor. And we look forward to when we can start doing it in person again, so she can build those relationships a little bit better. She also does, I mentioned, career exploration with them. For students that are not interested in going to college, she refers them to the Michigan Works local office that works with them to help them with any other pieces on that side. Each student is required, if they meet all the requirements of the graduation or the scholarship, they are eligible for 3 years to receive this from us. On the right, you see I put KVAAP, and some of you may already know this, but KVCC has it's not a CUNY ASAP Lite. It is the CUNY ASAP model that is available for students at KVCC. So if you are enrolled in that program, you're able to get free tuition and all kinds of support, very similar to what we're providing. Let's talk about workforce partnerships, development and employment pathways. Unfortunately, our community is small. We don't have a ton of resources to plug our students into. However, the Michigan Works office that is here does a pretty decent job. of doing when we refer students. They have helped them with certificate programs, CNA training, plugging them into those types of things, probably very similar to what is happening in your region. But we also have several students over the last 3.5, 4 years who were PATH students from Michigan Works, who are able to get their hours counted when they're here towards those 20 hours that they need to produce with Michigan Works. My hope, our hope, when we get to the point where if there's an opportunity to have a 2-gen learning center in the Kalamazoo region, I've talked to a few of these organizations, Joe Brown at Urban Alliance, Maddie at NACD. I understand that the Michigan Works Southwest organization, Michigan Works down there is solid and doing a ton of great things with that, and KVCC as well. We are not, and this is a point where I can probably make to you that we are not a workforce development organization. We are educators, and we are stay in our lane. If you will. We want to ensure that we are doing what we do best, and that's educating people. But what's important then is not to forget about these other important pieces, is to develop quality partnerships so that we can plug people into the pipeline so that they can successfully enter the workforce and start making a few more dollars for, again, economic security for their families. So our childcare program is newborns to 3 years old. One of the reasons we do newborns to 3 is that there are not a lot of services here for that. And we don't want to duplicate services. So if a mom comes in and has a 3 and a 4 and a 5-year-old, we will refer the 4 and a 5-year-olds out to other programs, Head Start or GSRP, but on our site then, we will do the early childhood program for them. Good point, good time to say this is not a licensed childcare center. It's not a licensed early childcare environment. We don't have to be licensed in the state of Michigan. Nobody does unless they when the parents are on site. Because it's a 2-gen program and we want the moms to be engaged with their children in the program, we have different components that promote that. We don't want to be a drop-off center where kids are being dropped off and then moms are taken off. That's not what we're doing it for. So we have 2 early childhood classrooms literally across the hallway from the adult learning center that I just showed you. One is a baby room and one is a toddler room. The infant room is 0 to 2 years old. The preschool room is 2 to 3 years old. If you take a look on the left side here, what we've got is a mom who was a graduate this past year, administering the ASQ3 assessment. When I was talking about assessment tools that we use and that we have to assess, it's important to assess all the components that you're doing, both for the adults and the children. We use the ASQ3 assessment, which of course is a best practices and solid assessment tool to show the growth of students and if some are behind or if they're doing well. And it's a parent engagement piece. I suppose a lot of you know about ASQ3, but they're involved in the ASQ3 assessment, which is fantastic. Our staff loves it. There are resources then to support and to help students grow in some of those areas of short deficit that they may have. Our early childhood program is focused on early literacy. There's a ton of hands-on learning in the preschool side. You can see this picture on the right side of the screen. This is the Parent and Child Together program where moms and kids come together and we're engaging them in their education. What are some of the things you can do here, but also we give them things to take home so that they can work on a lot of these early learning skills with their kids. You see a foster grandparents logo down here. One of the benefits in our community is that there's a foster grandparents program that thrives with the Council on Aging. We have 3 volunteers on a daily basis that are foster grandparents that work in our program. We only have to hire then 2 staff members for each space that are on the payroll. So it's been a huge benefit to our students. So let's talk about addressing the non-academic barriers, which is the second part of our mission statement. You can see here that we have a licensed professional counselor on site. We have been fortunate that this has been a huge piece. We know that toxic stress. We know that adverse childhood experiences, a lot of crisis going on with the students that we serve. We recognized in the first year that our teachers, we just were too busy to be dealing with some of those issues that those students were struggling with, that were keeping them from being successful. They may not even show up for 2 weeks because they had some major issue going on. So what we did was we found this amazing counselor who set up her own practice here. And during the day, she works with our students and then has her own private practice after hours. What she does for our 2 Gen students is she teaches 2 monthly coaching classes where the whole group comes together and they're addressing issues such as adverse childhood experiences, taking surveys, working some of those things out and building relationships with all the other women that are here, but addressing a lot of mothering issues and parenting issues and all of those things to help them really build resilience to be able to finish what we're trying to help them do. If students desire, they can also have individual counseling sessions on a weekly basis with her. What we've done is she's able to bill insurances, and for those who don't have insurance, we've worked out a really great deal where we pay her a lesser cost so students can all get free counseling from her. What we found is the most successful students that we've had are those that have been really engaging in counseling and also in the coaching classes. This has been a huge, huge piece of the success of our program. Other academic, non-academic barriers that we address for student success: transportation assistance. We fixed many cars, a couple $100 here or there to get students here. We have several hundred bus tickets every year. We serve healthy lunches every day. This is, again, the partnership with the local soup kitchen. We don't want to be food experts, but we do have a nice kitchen. So what we do is we buy the food from them and we just heat it up here. So again, just like kids who are hungry, it's difficult for adults to learn and to be successful if their stomach's growling and they need some food. So we do that every day. If you see on the left here, that's another opportunity to bring moms and kids together. Another opportunity for us to bring them together and kind of speak into their lives a little bit, help them understand how do you respond to your kid when he's throwing food or screaming and those kinds of things. Teachable moments throughout the whole day. Another one of those moms and kids together, the 2 Gen piece that's really precious here. And then there's miscellaneous individual needs that we've addressed. I said the car repairs, we've helped with utilities, housing referrals, food, and other basic needs. So that's pretty much the end of the 2 educational pieces, but I just wanted to share some data in a minute. But success is something that we're always promoting here and always praising. We have what we call the success hallways here, and you can see these pictures are literally the hallways of our program, out with all student photos go out there, and we also put our graduates photos out there that have been graduates over the last 3.5, 4 years. This student that you see here is Nevaeh, and that's John. When they started here, John was literally 2 weeks old last year, and John just had his first birthday. And I'm proud to say that last Friday, Nevaeh passed her math test. She's only got her science to go, so she's going to graduate soon. These students really have struggled with education for a number of years, and for them to be celebrated often, it's a big deal for them, and it's part of our DNA here at the 2 Gen Learning Center. Again, celebrating success. A couple graduates, we do a lot of social media posts. They're always surprised how many people like these and make comments, people they don't even know. We have a great following of the work we do. But I just want to share these 2 stories real quick. Kayla, Jakayla, and Jakari on the left side. You see that she was enrolled here for 3 years. Everybody asks us, how long did it take to get my GED? Well, it took Kayla 3 years, on and off, because life was happening. Little Jakari on her right, on her left side, she was pregnant with him when she first started here. So when he was born, she had to stop out for 3 or 4 months and then came back the next year and then had some life things. But she just finished her GED about 2 months ago, and she'll be attending SC4 next fall. And on the right side is one of our quickest graduates ever, 3 months. Carly started here this past fall and was very bright. Just never thought she could do this. and showed up, and she got done real quick and applied for our grad scholarship that I told you about. And now we are supporting her at SC4. It's community college, and she's just doing a fantastic job. And then we have big graduation every year. This year we had 3 of them with less than 50 people at each one of them because of the COVID issues. But you can see that the women have chosen pink as their gown colors, and all their little people get to wear a white hat too. So it's not just the moms that graduate here, it's their kiddos too. Understand that we believe strongly that if moms are accomplishing these educational goals, that's going to have a huge impact on their kids. Many of the women that we serve, their mothers didn't graduate high school either, or get their GED. So the goal is, again, that making sure generationally that education is important in these families. And we're seeing that already with these students continuing on. A couple neat graduates, a couple kids, it's a lot of fun. Well, let's take one last piece of celebrating success and outcomes. What we have here is a board that we have that we can make quick adjustments to as students pass tests every day. This was just from last week, 18 weeks left in the program. It's a 36-week program that runs on the school schedule. Thus far this year, we have 9 graduates. And then that's where you see the done over here. But if you take a look down in the 3-test area, we have 12 students who have 3 tests passed, another 6 who have passed 2, and then 7 who have passed 1. We are targeting somewhere, our goal is 18 graduates this year, with lesser numbers being enrolled, but it's looking like we're probably going to get past 20, which we're real excited about. So let's talk about some numbers, because numbers matter when it comes to success. We started the program in 2017. It was a 36-week program. You can see it a lot across the top. We had 11 graduates. 3 more students passed 8 tests. That was a total of 52. We only had 36 students that year that enrolled in the program. The following year, we had more people graduate, and we ended up by the middle of the year with a waiting list. So we had 13 graduates, another 14 passed 23 tests with 75 total. Last year, 24-week program, we got shut down because of COVID in March like everybody else. We already had 16 graduates, 20 others had passed 30 for 89. And then I just gave you these numbers for this year of 9 graduates, 18 more with 35 tests, likely going to hit that 20 graduate number. Down in the bottom corner down here, I think this is significant. These are our total enrolled unduplicated numbers here, because not everybody finishes in a year. We've had 171 women, mothers involved in our program in the last 3.5 years since we've been here. 126 children have participated in our program. And then currently now we are supporting 8 of our students' graduation at the college, I'm sorry. I just want to share this number with these graduate numbers. We expect to be somewhere around 60 graduates in 3.5 years out of 171 students. So that number is somewhere around 35% completion rate to actually get your GED. And then several others who are accomplishing 1 test, 2 tests, maybe stop out. We'll get them back next year, and then we'll push them through as well. So in Kalamazoo, just taking the same kids count data center report, when we look at the numbers from Kalamazoo, obviously your population's much larger than here. In 2017, there were 170 on average on a yearly basis, children born to mothers without GED or high school diploma. So we're talking about need here. And then in the county, it's 334. And this is my last slide, and I know that makes you happy. Then we can get into the conversation. I wish I was here in person. It's a little easier to see everybody and communicate with you, but I just wanted to share, these are a couple of our graduates that I'm just super proud of. On the left, you see Amber Fields. She was a 2019 2-gen graduate. She has 2 kids that are younger. 1 attended here, 2 children that live with their father in another city. She came here, found out about us, and graduated in 2019. Promptly applied to the nursing school at St. Clair County Community College and started in that program. She's a 4.0 student, just tearing it up at SC4. And about 2 months ago, she heard we had a board opening, and she touched base with me and said, Mike, I want to make a difference for a long time in this community, even the moms that you serve. So she applied to be on our board of directors, and she's now serving on our board of directors, which is super cool for us to have a graduate who's doing so well and who was struggling so much, to be able to help inform our program, to get out and tell the story to the community and to the other women who need our help with this service. And then on the right's Maddie Korth. I put Vanderpool after that because she's a 2019 graduate as well, wasn't married, just her and her son were coming. Since that time, she just recently graduated from the Paul Mitchell Cosmetology School. She's going to be starting her career in that field. In the meantime, last year, she also got married and to Carter's dad, which is super cool for us. That wasn't going to be a thing. So they're doing really well. And just recently, she shared with us that they bought a house over in town. So she's starting to do pretty well. And just a couple of success stories. We've got a lot of them, but I just wanted to share a few of those.
This probably Hopewell. Any questions? Takia Lee.
Sure. So again, Sakia Lee, Mike, it looks like a really robust program, and I can tell that you all thought about this holistically in terms of the different supports that you provide. I have two questions in relation to everything that I saw. One, do you have demographic information on program participants? Being from the east side of the state, very familiar with Port Huron, knowing that there are smaller populations of families of color. But I'm just wondering if you have broken out the demographic information or if there's any targeted approaches that you have in terms of reaching out to families or students of, or mothers of color to participate. And then I noticed mothers, which I think is awesome. I'm wondering if a father comes along, or I know the last young lady, we didn't see that she ended up being married, but let's just even say if it was her partner, if he's like, I need some GED help or support, are men referred to other services? Are they allowed to participate and wear the pink gowns and graduate and all that?
Yeah, I don't think they'd want to wear the pink gowns though. Let me speak to the demographics question first. We do have a very small African-American community and population here. As far as we are in, I don't know, are you familiar with South Park in Port Huron?
Not South Park, no.
Okay.
I've mainly been camping in Port Huron, but
okay, good.
Yeah.
So you were at the north end where all the money is.
Yeah.
South Park is the lower income community in Port Huron. The majority of African-American population lives on this end of town. We work with the local elementary school right down the street to let them know, and they've probably referred about 15 mothers from their school, the elementary school, to us, of which about 5 or 6 have been African-American. The last woman that you saw on the left side of that one picture in the graduation photo with the 2 cute kids, she actually drove an hour and a half to come here from Harbor Beach up the Thumb. So the best that we have billboards on the south end of town where most of the lower income and the different demographics are at. As far as targeted approaches, we don't have a targeted approach. But that's not something that can't happen. I know that in Kalamazoo, it's a much larger population and there's a need. So there's ways to do that for sure. And your other question was men. I tell everybody I'm the only guy here, and I am, but I also tell them it's kind of corny that I'm the funniest guy here, the nicest guy here, and because I'm the only guy here. We don't want, this place is locked down every day. You have to ring a bell to get in. It's a safe and secure place. We refer any men that call us or any of the gals who've got somebody they want to refer to the local school district that does adult education.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brenda Hughes.
Hi, Mike. I also had the demographics question, so thanks for that. And I noticed that you said that the people that are qualified to go to the college, the associate's degree program, have to have gotten their GED from your program. Is that correct?
Correct.
They can't come in with a GED and need more help?
No, that scholarship is funded by a donor just for our graduates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a community foundation and other organizations that do scholarships for, low income folks and when there's need. We were plugging some of our graduates in at SC4 at the community college and just sending them off and hoping things went well. And it didn't work well. They needed help navigating the college experience. So many of them are first generation college attenders, and we just felt like we needed to do something with it. And it's been a great addition.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Cooney?
Mike, what a wonderful program. Just great. And I'm really impressed with your relationship with the community college. I think that's terrific, what's going on. And I was just thinking that if it was here, I think Western Michigan University could add an awful lot to that program with our early childhood program, with our medical school, with our trauma center, which is one of the best in the country, with our social work department, with our education department. So I just think that building on your model, our university could add a tremendous amount to that whole thing.
Thank you. That's great to hear. The work we currently do is based on limits of what we can do in our own community.
Yeah.
Are blessed to have the community college here, which has got a solid nursing program that always has a waiting list. So we're plugging a lot of our students into that program. They all want to go into medical, which of course is a great field for families and for mothers, but it would be neat and very cool if we're able to develop something like this in Kalamazoo to look at all the different resources and organizations that are available, including Western Michigan. My son goes there, by the way.
Oh.
For those that are watching this, I'm going to call out the name of the next speaker so they won't need to state their name, so you'll know who's going to be next. Ms. Lewis, Shalana Lewis, I believe, had her hand up. If I made a mistake, please tell me. Oh, I'm sorry. Lisa Stewart.
Thank you. So a quick question for you, Mike. Actually two. One, wearing sort of our funding hat, SBK is embarking on a new funding process and we're looking to support 2 generational programs. Mm-hmm. I'd love some perspective for you on what sorts of funding have been particularly helpful to your ability to develop this holistic approach. So, unrestricted, multi-year, like any sort of characteristics of funding that have been helpful. Right. And then also secondly, if you have any information on the average cost per participant of programming like this, I think again, wearing our funder hat, that would be really helpful to get a sense of the sort of cost of holistic programming.
Yeah. Let me address the funding piece of it. We've been super fortunate to have a funder. Well, it's the largest St. Clair County philanthropist who was a single mom come from a single parent family when she was a child, and then was a single mom herself. So we've designed this program together from a funding perspective and the program perspective. She actually is on our board of directors. So that's been super beneficial and has become a great friend. When it comes to as far as funding itself is concerned, the first couple of years, we were looking at yearly funding, but then we are now in our third 3-year multi-year funding cycle with the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan. That helps us to really look out. We're not looking to do anything for a year. We've been able to establish an endowment fund also down at the Community Foundation in Detroit that'll keep our organization going for many, many years, long past me, because we believe that's how you build an organization without having to just look at what it looks like today, looking down the road. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an answer. That's super helpful for helping us grow. We went from 1 classroom to 2 classrooms to 3 classrooms and a waiting list so quickly that we just had to start looking at that, but having that funding out down the road was really helpful for us to make those decisions. As far as per cost for each student, that is, I could give you what our budget is, and then you could figure that out and say, hey, I got 60 graduates for this amount of time. That is not a metric, quite honestly, Ms. Stewart, that we measure our success with. I know that funders are going to take a look at that. But then our question is, and the one thing I always bring back is, so are we just going to talk about the GED graduates then? Or are we talking about all the kids? Or are we talking about just GED? Or now are we talking about the college success? Are we talking, from a generational perspective, we're serving 2 generations. So 171 mothers, but 126 children. That's a really difficult metric and a number for me to provide to you. And that's just the best answer I can give you and the best rationale for why we don't measure it.
Ms. Hollers? Kim Hollers.
Hi, Mike. It's good to see you again. This is the second time around.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. So, and maybe I missed it and I apologize ahead of time if I did, but what is the age limit for single moms?
18 and above.
Okay. I was just asking for a more specific reason. So you talked a lot about working with a lot of the colleges in the area and the trades or the other community colleges, but do you work with the other adult education component or other agencies in the community?
There's only one other one, and it's the high school or the local school district. And I'll just be frank with you, they're more focused on as they should be. There's 6,000 K-12 students. Adult education, I think, has been just one of the add-ons that they had to do over the years. They're not overly effective, but we do refer men there. That's the only relationship we really have. We should do our testing there too, but now we have our own private testing center.
Okay. When you say that, you're moving towards this direction in Kalamazoo, have you reached out or are you going to reach out to our adult ed?
We wouldn't want to duplicate services. I've taken a look already at different services that are available in adult ed there. Ideally, it'd be really cool. I know that we would do that. I guess what I'm saying is if there was a path and a way to have a good relationship with the other adult ed organizations, it doesn't make sense for us to be doing the same thing. So if we were there and we were serving just women with kids, it'd be awesome to get those referrals from the other adult education so that we could provide that service for both generations. And then we could maybe refer out the other students that we didn't think that was the best fit for them at our organization. So men, maybe some women who are on a different path. But I'd have to frankly get an understanding of all the resources, all the different organizations that's being done there and really know how it's being done.
Great.
That
Okay,
answers
I just got one last question, and I'm sorry. You talked about the 0 to 3 and that you use the ASQ for, for measurement for milestones and such, but do you utilize any type of, like the protective factors into those children, working with those children on the curriculum, or look at the social emotional prior to? Like here in Kalamazoo, we have the KPS, the social emotional and learning expectations that they have, which also aligns with all of that. I was just wondering if you use the same thing.
Well, we don't use the exact same thing, but our staff is a retired kindergarten teacher with a retired early childhood teacher as well. The ASQ3 is really our measurement tool. Keep in mind, a lot of our students, let's say a student's here for a year, we might have a student here for 6 months, but in ASQ3, and I'm not an ASQ3 expert, I'm not an early childhood expert, I just know it's a great assessment tool that we do use. Those pieces are part of that. It is mainly the piece, and we design our curriculum around some of those areas of concern that those littles need some extra help with. That's what we do here. The social emotional piece, I know there's some of that as part of the ASQ3 assessment, in addition to all of the other components such as fine motor, the large motor skills and all those pieces. But it'd be good to see, hey, doesn't mean we can't get better at what we do. We are on a continuous improvement process in this organization so that we can have better success and better outcomes for both the women and the children that we serve. So it sounds like you've got a more robust system for the 0 to 3 space. We're creating our own here. And that's what we've done, and that's what we're working with now.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim.
Not see, Karen McGlynn, did you have your hand up?
Well, and I think just to kind of piggyback on some of that, I think there's a lot of possibilities too. I wonder if you're identifying people with learning disabilities versus people that may have just environmentally not been able to succeed academically, and then carrying that down, because what we know is people with learning disabilities, a lot of times that carries into their kids, and it's very hereditary. So I just wondered if you do any of that kind of work.
That's a great question. Thank you. We do serve some students that have learning disabilities, but when we do our enrollment assessment, we've gotten to a point where we have had to move up our grade level score for the reading so that we could, because we've got so many people trying to get in. So what we've done over the last few years, we now have an 8th grade or above reading level on the enrollment assessment to get into the program. If they're below that, what we do is refer them to our local literacy council or adult literacy council to improve their reading skills first. We, at one time, when we first started, we had some 3rd and 4th grade readers with those learning disabilities. And frankly, we couldn't, they needed more than what we're designed to do. So I hope that answers your question with regards to that piece. We wish that we could serve that population, and there's definitely a need for that. But our hope is that the Literacy Council can improve those reading skills so we can bring them in and get them across that GED finish line so we can get them into the workforce, get them into college.
This is Bobby Hopewell. I'm not seeing anyone else that have questions. Well, Mr. Inkley, thank you so much for the presentation. Mr. Ford, I didn't know if you had any closing comments.
No. Again, thank you, Mike. I know we've been in conversation for a while to have you talk to the organizer committee. I'll certainly follow up with you.
That sounds
great. In terms of this 2G work in Kalamazoo. But thank you for your time.
That's great. And I just want to thank you all for letting me have the opportunity to share with you. I just want to throw one more nugget out. Our board of directors has approved for me to, if we're able to develop an organization, another chapter in Kalamazoo, they've approved me to split my time between both organizations as the executive director at no cost to the Kalamazoo chapter for the next 1.5 years. We've already got funding to do that. So I will be planning already to be spending a couple days a week in the Kalamazoo region on Thursdays and Fridays to kind of get that going and meet people. My wife has actually taken a job in Kalamazoo already, and she's working there starting this past week. We're looking to be able to split that time, but I just want to share that with you so that I can bring that expertise piece to the table because people, part of it, it's a really critical piece of the success of our program. So again, thank you. It was great to meet all of you. You're doing great work, and I look forward to hopefully someday seeing you in person.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks. Take care.
We're now at unfinished business. Mr. Ford. You're muted.
I don't think we have anything on the agenda for that. All right.
Miscellaneous from any member. Mr. Damerow, Ben Damerow.
Yep, Ben Damerow. Just an update for everyone. with the Going Pro Talent Fund. It's a competitive grant at the state level where employers apply through Michigan Works for training funds for current employees and new employees. Awards were announced 2 weeks ago. Across our 4 counties, we got 43 awards for $2.7 million. In Kalamazoo, it's 18 companies for $1.6 million. So glad we have this funding for our employers to, train their employees and new employees that are coming in. So really appreciate our legislative reps in the state of Michigan for making that funding available. And then I would just also note, we have employers just really seeking talent right now. A lot of employers who are seeking people. So if you go to our website, michiganworkssouthwest.org, we have virtual hiring events basically every week. Upcoming, we have landscape forms, graphic packaging, Ralph Moyle, and Arcadia Home Care. So thank you.
Other updates? I didn't know if I saw Elisa Stewart.
I would just lift up that the United Way and Kalamazoo Community Foundation, through our Disaster Relief Fund and Community Urgent Relief Fund, respectively, continue to have grant resources available. Those can be connected to through either United Way's website at changethestory.org or Kalamazoo Community Foundation's website. There's no wrong door. We are processing those, reviewing those on a weekly basis, and funds are being turned around very quickly. So just wanted to lift up that there are still funds available.
Awesome, thank you. I see another hand, Vice Mayor Griffin.
Yes, really quickly, I just wanted to throw something out here to the group. When the nominating committee, we had a chance to have a conversation, and some things were coming up around team and committee development and what that would look like. And so for this group, just kind of exploring ways that as we're getting together, we're making these decisions on 2 generational approaches and all these approaches that are going to have significant impact in our community. How do we as a body function? And how do we, move forward through, even though we haven't necessarily had any particular issues, so to speak, but being prepared and being able to navigate that. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we did it with Melissa and Kevin, and Don was not at this meeting, but he was definitely in our group. But just I just wanted to throw that out there. And Alyssa, I don't know if you want to expand on that anymore.
Yeah, I think in our discussion, we talked a little bit about the onboarding of the potential new member. And it just came up this idea of how do we continue to build ourselves as a team, our shared understanding, our skills to, as Vice Mayor said, kind of navigate through conflict and disagreement. That's something I've learned as a funder as we head into a funding process. There may be disagreement amongst us of who we fund and those sorts of things. How do we sort of build our skill and relation as a team to do that? We did, as a subcommittee, talk about the idea of having regular committee development opportunities. So having time set aside outside of these meetings where we could learn together, strengthen our relationships, and do that so that we can be in a better position to function as a body. So that was sort of, I guess, our idea was essentially to identify whether we could set aside some time as a committee. In the past, I know we had a retreat, so it could be something like that. But we just really felt that, especially as we onboard new members, having time set aside to develop as a team and committee felt really important.
Okay. Other miscellaneous items? All right. Are there any public comments?
There are no public comments at this time.
All right. With that, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.
Right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kev.
Yep.